After the success of Star Wars in 1977, the people beginning to write books and comics within the universe needed more context about the galaxy far, far away. So George Lucas did a couple of interviews where he answered questions as C-3PO, Han Solo, and Princess Leia. You can find those notes in the fantastic book The Making of Star Wars by J.W. Rinzler. George had some early thoughts on Darth Vader and his growing importance that I thought were very interesting. He said, "The Death Star had readouts about everyone on board except Darth Vader. Darth Vader is really attached to the Emperor himself, and he was not really a part of the Death Star personnel or any of that system. Lord Vader worked directly for the Emperor and was the Emperor's emissary. I'm sure people have seen the Emperor, there are no images of him in the movie, but he's there." When the Jedi tried to restore order, Darth Vader was still one of the Jedi. What he would do is catch the Jedi off guard, and using his knowledge of the Force, he would kill the Jedi without them realizing what was happening. They trusted him, and they didn't realize he was the murderer who was decimating their ranks. At the height of the Jedi, there were several 100,000. At the time of the rebellion, most of them were killed. The Emperor had some strong forces rally behind him as well, in terms of the army and the Imperial forces that he'd been building up secretly. The Jedi were so outnumbered that they fled and were tracked down. They tried to regroup, but they were eventually massacred by one of the special elite forces led by Darth Vader. Eventually, only a few, including Ben and Luke's father, were left. Luke's father is named Anakin. The Making of Star Wars paints a pretty clear picture that the Sith Order, who they were and how they operated, were still in flux during the production of the original Star Wars. I don't know if Lucas knew then that the Emperor would be one of their members, or if the Sith simply worked for him. At one point in the story, Darth Vader was just one of several Sith characters. Even still, Lucas knew Vader stood outside of the normal ranks of the Galactic Empire and answered directly to the mysterious Emperor. Even if he wasn't an apprentice, there was still a strong connection. Even though I don't recall knowing this information as a kid, Vader's betrayal of the Jedi is described here much more like I pictured it growing up. I mean, there was no way to know or guess about the Clone Wars or Order 66. All we knew was that Vader betrayed the Jedi and hunted them down. I love the way Lucas makes it seem like a murder mystery, that Vader is one of the Jedi, stabbing them in the back one by one. Although then we see that there were several 100,000 of them at their height, that would take a lot of stabbing. So then Lucas describes Imperial forces that the Emperor had been secretly building, kind of like the clone army we eventually got to see. The Jedi were outnumbered and they fled, only to be tracked down by Vader's elite forces, like the Inquisitors. I like that George mentions that most, but not all of the Jedi were killed, only a few were left. Knowing now that George had plans for his own version of the sequel trilogy that would have seen Luke finding more and more surviving Jedi, that tracks, despite being told by Yoda that he was the only one left. It's also interesting to note that Luke's father was mentioned as one of those few survivors until Vader killed him. I'm gonna do a separate video all about the evolution of Anakin into Vader because it's really interesting to see the iterations of how Anakin was envisioned in Star Wars and then how it eventually shifted into The Empire Strikes Back. Just a reminder, if you want to read these notes from Lucas about his universe, they're near the end of J.W. Rinzler's excellent book, The Making of Star Wars. But that's it for today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.